Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to Iron Anchor Cycles. So it's time to turn this 2014 lowrider from a flip bike into our next giveaway bike. It was really awesome to see all the comments and feedback that we got on the video that we posted a couple weeks ago, asking all of you what you thought we should do with this bike and what you'd like to see us do in terms of upgrades. And I promised I was going to read through all the comments, and that's exactly what I did. I gave it, I don't know, about a week or two and kind of looked at what everybody said, added my own kind of thoughts and ideas into that, ordered some parts, and we are ready to get going with turning this bike into, well, sort of the collective group opinion on what kind of everybody, myself included, thought made sense for this bike. Obviously, we're not doing everything, and obviously, we're not doing everything everybody said because, well, we have to come up with some kind of a compromise. But it did seem like there was kind of a sweet spot of what it felt like kind of most people were leaning towards. And I threw a couple of little things in there for myself as well. But before we talk about what we're going to do on the bike, I did want to talk a little bit about the feedback that we got. And more importantly than that, I'd like to read to you a few of my favorite comments from this particular video that we did, because we got a lot of help and we got a lot of really good ideas. And then we also got some, I don't know, there's always some people out in left field, and I want to give them their moment in the sun here so that everybody can see what their thoughts were on this. So these are not necessarily in any order. I don't really know what order I was looking at them when I pulled them, but so here we go. I'll try and throw these up on the screen too. So I've got Michael Mitchell 5909. Got a Road King with a 103 and Reinhardt full exhaust for $6,500, dude. So I'm not sure what Michael's point here is. Maybe that my bike is overpriced, or maybe he's just bragging about what an awesome bike he has and the price he paid for it. I don't know. But congratulations, Michael, on your purchase. And if you want to, do something proper with that bike, maybe keep watching our other videos and we can show you how to do it. I got another one here. This is user YouTube i6F. I could have bought a 2023 Lowrider S with 1,500 miles for $12K. You selling it too expensive, build it and raffle. So I guess, sorry you missed out on that bike. If it's still available, could you send me the link? Because I'll buy that bike. 12 grand for a 2023 Lowrider S with no miles on it. That's a crazy good deal. And I think the point, again, you're trying to make is this bike is too expensive because you found one bike that was a good deal in the marketplace. Little tough to compare the value of every other bike for sale because of one great deal you found. And I'm not kidding. You should have bought that. And if you didn't, send me the link and I'll buy it. Next, we've got Joe Blow 7054, hardtail it and Springer front end. I love it. Let's do that on the next one. We've got Charles Vaughn 832, $5,000. Not sure what Charles is offering here. My guess is because he's got the $ after the money that this guy is overseas, and I'm not sure if those are American dollars or not. But if you are offering me $5,000 for this bike, well, no. All right, next. Captain Ron, 1913. A raffle is not a giveaway. Okay. I love when the semantics police get involved to correct the things I'm saying. Thank you, Captain Ron. I'm sure you're a pleasure to be out on the boat with and not at all a pain in the ass. Next, Arthur Cutta Air 9994. $640. Fucking dollars for an air cleaner. Fuck out of here. Not sure what air cleaner Arthur is referring to, but thank you for sharing your feedback. That's very welcome. Next, user YouTube i6F. Oh, this is actually the same guy as the other guy. This is the, I could have bought a 2023 Lowrider S with 1,500 miles for $12K. So he had another comment for us. He goes, user YouTube i6F, yeah, because you did nothing to it. Just wanted to flip it. I can buy it without flip if I want. Build it nicely and raffle it. Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to buy the bike, put as little money into it as possible, clean it up, and make a profit on it. I don't know, similar to every single vehicle dealership in the known universe. Gee, what a crazy idea I had. Sorry to offend, but that's exactly what we're going to do, build it and raffle it, so thanks for the tip. Okay, so that was just a few of the fun ones. There is another comment here I want to read because it's an awesome idea that I did not consider, and it is definitely something I want to try doing in the future. So this is Black Blaze 91. Iron Anchor Cycles, why don't you do a giveaway and let the winner choose the mods? They win the bike and say 3 to 4K in mods, they get to pick. If they want suspension handling, then you do suspension chassis work. If they want power, then engine mods. By that way, whoever wins get exactly what they want. Plus, you can make another video of doing the mods to their bike and reveal pickup reaction. This is a killer idea. I love this. I had not even considered doing this, and it's a great idea. I'm not going to do it on this one because I'd like to put a little more time into planning that and do maybe a little bit more promotion around it. But that is a 100% a cool idea. I don't really know anyone else who's doing that. Maybe there are others, but I'm going to keep it in the back of my head to go and find a bike that we can buy, and we'll do sort of like a build raffle. And we can talk about, you know, how much that would be or what the, you know, guardrails might be. But that's an awesome idea for a future project, maybe this spring. So thank you for that. Okay, so let's talk about the rest. There were basically the big 3 things that people wanted to do, and it was kind of the same things I mentioned. The only other thing, and I do want to address it, that we're not going to do, but I do want to do in a future project is there was a lot of suggestion about doing cams and engine work. And while on the one hand, I do think that's a great idea, and frankly, I do see the point that that's something that's much more difficult for somebody to do on their own. And you know, if we do it here, it's got more value. The problem with that is, there's not really a problem with that. It has to do a little bit with money and a little bit with sale value. I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand the value of some of that work. And also, if you're gonna do that work, you're also gonna need a pipe, you're also gonna need, you know, a proper tune, and things can snowball pretty quickly. So that said, this is not gonna be the bike we're gonna do that on, but I do think it would be cool to do a giveaway bike where most of the attention and most of the money is put into the engine and we build something cool. So whether that's cams, whether that's, you know, a bigger motor, heads, whatever it might be, I'm gonna put that in the file for some time down the road. So that's a great idea. So thank you to everybody who suggested that. All right, so what are we doing? Big 3, okay? The most common, overwhelming things that kept coming up in the comments were kind of the things I pointed out in the last video: bars and risers, pipes, shocks. Air cleaner did come up. This actually already has an air cleaner back here. I can't remember what it is. It's either, I think it's an S&S is what's back here. So air cleaner's done already. So big 3, pipes, handlebars, shocks. So that's what we're gonna do. I've got some other stuff too. We're gonna add a couple more things onto that. Let me show you the parts we've got to go on. I'll show you kind of the price breakdown of everything and kind of what we're gonna spend. And then I'm gonna get into getting this bike put together so you guys can see it. So that's kind of it for the intro. Next thing I'm gonna do is show you guys the parts, but I just wanna say before we get into the rest of that is I really do appreciate everybody who left a comment, watched the video, shared some thoughts on it. I'm gonna make fun of the silly comments, but I can't help myself. But to those guys too, and everybody, I really do appreciate the engagement and the involvement. It's nice to know that people actually, you know, have an opinion on the stuff you're putting out there, and it's not just, you know, going out into the universe and nobody cares. So thank you, I do appreciate it. So enough of that, enough talking. Let's go look at some parts. All right, scratch what I just said. Let's not look at a whole big pile of parts. You're gonna see them as they go on. So let's just start tearing into this. I'm gonna get started by removing stuff that is either in the way or we don't need, and we'll just get rolling with this. So I guess we'll get the bars and stuff off, we'll get the pipes off, we'll get the shocks off, seat off, sissy bar, just start doing some disassembly, and then we'll get into putting some new stuff on. So here we go, let's do it. All right, guys, real quick editor's note before we get into the work on this bike. I'm pretty sure I forgot to mention that at the end of this video, I will break down all the parts that I put on this bike, what the price of all those parts are, and ultimately kind of what I added to what I consider to be the retail price for the bike. So I want to be pretty transparent about the money that is going into it and the money that I'm trying to get out of it, just because I think that's part of it on this one, because I asked for all of your guys' input on, you know, what would be worth doing. So I think it's only fair that I kind of show you the value in and value out. So at the very end of the video, after the bike is done being completed, I know I'm probably going to say in the outro, that's it, thanks for watching, but stick around until the very, very end, go to the very end of the video, and I'm going to add in a section where we go through all the parts that we used and go through all the information for you. So just wanted to call that out just in case you stop watching and think that I'm not going to go through that. So it's there, just stick around to the end and you'll see it. All right, back to the video. All right, first little roadblock. I can't get the bolt out with the tire there, but I don't think we're gonna have to take the rear tire off since the shocks are coming off anyway. Put a jack under here, disconnect the shocks, jack it up, and we should have the clearance to get that bolt out. Not sure if the wire is gonna need to come out also, or if there's a pass-through to let it just come over the top, but we'll see. The other thing is I'm noticing the paint doesn't look super good under there. It looks like it was rubbing. So if I have to take this fender off and get it repainted, I'm not going to be thrilled about that, but I guess we'll just take a look and see how it is. So let's go deal with that. All right, got that out. So this is what I was talking about here. There's a little slit for that wire to pass through. So you can see what I was talking about here. It's actually, you know what that is? This isn't through the paint. This is the leftover like paper and adhesive from where the reflector was. That's what this is. I think the rest of this is just, can be kind of buffed. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna have to we're not gonna have to get this painted. Assuming the other side doesn't look any worse, we'll be fine. There are definitely some scratches up here in the top. I don't know what somebody did to this up here by where the seat screw is, but we'll clean it up as best as we can. But anyway, that is not for now. What I'm gonna do is just go ahead and get this hardware all reattached, and then I'll move to the other side, take this one off, and we'll keep going with the rest of the disassembly. All right, before we do any more disassembly, and I guess principally that's really just the handlebar stuff, I figured we're here, might as well put the new shocks on, right? Get a little bit of instant gratification, if you will. So what did we decide to do for shocks? You might have seen it in the thumbnail of the video. We got a set of Legends to go on here. We did not go full budget on the Legends, and we also didn't go all the way to the top with the ARCs. We went with what I think is, when you're talking about Legend shocks, the best bang for the buck, which is the revo-as. They are made a little bit better than the Revos are in terms of some of the internal components, and then obviously they have the added adjustability as well. And the price point is, you know, it's higher, but it's not a huge, huge jump like it is going up to the ARC. So I think it's a pretty good value, and that was kind of the theme of what we were doing here, was trying to spend money in a smart way. And I decided, in terms of getting the features, the quality, and the specs that we were looking for, revo-as from Legend were the way to do it. So let's pop this box open. All right, so we've got spacers, hardware, and a set of shocks. You know, it's been a while since I've done a set of Legends. These are packaged a little bit different than they used to be. So we got to look at one of these. Definitely a nice looking shock. You can't knock them on that. And these are definitely going to do the job for what we want. So I obviously know I don't have my spacers on here or anything like that, so let's not go crazy. So we are sitting a little bit higher than where these need to be, but that gives you some perspective of the inch gain in travel, or inch gain in height we're gonna get. There's a gain in travel too. I'm not sure what it is with the Legends, but in any event, yeah, I think those look good. I think those are gonna do the job. So let me get the hardware situated and we'll start to get these bolted on. All right, so these are a very straightforward install. We've got one large spacer and one small spacer for the top and for the bottom, and just put our shocks on and see how they look. So this is the only thing that's not even complicated. It's just a step you should be aware of is, for the most part, when the shocks are taken off and you jack the Harley up, it doesn't lift totally straight. So usually one side or the other is gonna sit a little higher or lower. And obviously you wanna put the side that sits taller on first, because you can always use the weight of the bike to jack it down and line up the other side. But if you put the side that's shorter on first, you can jack all you want, the wheel is just gonna come up with it and you're never gonna get the space and you're gonna wind up fighting against the shock to put the other side on. So it's usually not a very big difference, but it's just something to be aware of. So slide that on, take a look. So we'll do the other side first, and then we'll lower the bike down and we'll get this side lined up. I think that's gonna be the correct order on this one. All right, so we should be pretty close to lined up here. So let me throw a little bit of Loctite on this bottom bolt, and I guess we can get the top situated as well. So we got the big spacer on the inside. We've got a small spacer, this little OE washer, and good there. Okay, small spacer on the outside, through the shock, big spacer on the inside. All right, and if we're lined up, we should be able to get this to go in. Yep, good to go. All right, so we just gotta torque these down. And our shocks are installed. That's simple. So if we were doing this for a customer or for yourself, you'd obviously, the next thing you'd want to do is get the sag set correct with the preload here. Since we don't know who the rider of this is ultimately going to be, I'm just going to leave them at the factory setting, and I'll leave it up to the next owner of the bike to set their own weight on here. The only other thing is setting the rebound control, and we like to leave those at 3, which is Legends kind of factory default setting. So shocks are on, and I think that looks pretty good. So with that situated, I think it's time to move on up and get the handlebars removed. Okay, sorry, one more thing before we move up to the handlebars. I mentioned we were gonna leave the preload at the factory setting. Well, these are the types of things that you wanna double check when you get parts out of the box from really any manufacturer. The preload on these shocks was not set the same. So if you didn't check that and you just went ahead and started adjusting these shocks, you would wind up, doing equal amounts of turns on each side, like they tell you. You would wind up with shocks with different levels of preload on them. So it's off by, I don't know, like 1/4 of an inch. So let's see how much it takes to get these where they're supposed to be. Just a hair too far. Perfect. Okay, so that was a decent amount of adjustment that I needed to do to get these to be even, which is a little surprising, also a little not surprising. But in any event, this is now ready for somebody to adjust for themselves. So now let's go ahead and get up to the handlebars. All right, so I know I've done a bunch of videos that feature handlebars in them, and we've definitely done some walkthroughs. So I'm gonna go pretty quickly on this one and just crank this away, because I'm sure just like the rest of you, I'm just looking forward to seeing what this looks like. So I will talk a little bit about the difference on this one, this top mount headlight deal. We've got to get, disassembled in order to put the new bars on, and what we have to do to replace this headlight. I'll cover all that, but for the rest of it, as we just start to do the basic disassembly, like I said, I'm just gonna kind of crank away. All right, and just like that, bars are stripped and ready to come off. I will point out, these late Dynas are just about the easiest handlebar wiring you could possibly have. Obviously, they're CAN bus, which means you've got the small, 20, 22 gauge wires with these little Delphi plugs on them. But in this case, the turn signals actually share a harness. There's no separate turn signal wires, with a little blue, purple, black plug down at the end. This is it. So it's just this one, harness to go through on each side. So real easy to route these through your bars. And also, in the case of this particular bike, and I don't remember this always being the case, but I can't imagine they're putting longer wires in some than others for some reason. There's a lot of extra slack in these. There is no need to extend these wires. I'm all but certain that with our new bars put on here, we're still gonna have plenty of wire with all the slack we need to get those tucked in. So saves me some soldering, saves us some money, so pretty excited about that. So let me put these down, and we'll take a look at what's left here, which obviously is our headlight, riser, visor, handlebar assembly. Okay, so with everything removed and the headlight harness unplugged from the main harness under the tank, we should be able to take this entire thing off as one piece. At least that's the hope. If you can't get a wrench in here, which maybe we can, maybe we can. I think with an extension, I'll be able to do it. Obviously, you can take the headlight off first, which will give you a little bit more access, but I think we're gonna be okay to do it without having to do that. This might be better. Okay, one. And two. Okay, so I figured now is actually as good a time as any to talk about this thing. So I know I mentioned in the last video on this, the theoretical benefit of this setup that Harley did is that these risers are adjustable in terms of tilting them forward and back. I think I had mentioned in that video that it is an idea better in theory than in execution. The reality is they don't really work. If you look at this and you see, you could tilt these back towards you, but they're gonna get lower as you do. So you're not really getting the bars closer to you. You're just sort of moving them down and back, if that makes sense. So like, I don't know, hopefully that makes sense to you. So most people don't really find a lot of use out of these, is I think the reality of it. And obviously because of this whole integrated deal here, you can see that the risers bolt laterally into this bracket, which holds the eyebrow and the headlight. So if you're gonna take this off, you're gonna have to put a bottom mount headlight on. Really not a big deal. We're gonna reuse this headlight assembly itself. We're also going to reuse this wiring harness to keep everything as factory as possible. And then, you know, all you got to do is buy a headlight bucket in black or chrome, and those are real cheap. You can find them on Amazon. That's where I got the one we're putting on. So really not a big difference in terms of doing bars and risers to get rid of one of these things versus any other setup. It's really, really not a big deal. It would be a bigger deal, I suppose, if the hole in the lower triple tree was not already drilled for you, but it is. So the hole is there. Just get your headlight. You need a mounting block, obviously, for it and hardware. But we'll get to that, cross that bridge when we get to it. So for the moment, like I said, I'm going to clean this up and we'll start to get our new bars and risers ready to go on. All right, so I've got everything cleaned up and got the new risers ready to go on. And for those of you who think that I hate chrome, well, chrome Thrashin risers, and these are going to look killer. I've said this before, I'll say it again. It's not that I hate chrome doodads and plastic fake chrome covers. But a bike that's got nice chrome on it in a balanced way that contrasts other things looks awesome. A wash of everything all chromed, to me, looks terrible. But if you've got some nice black and chrome contrast going on, I think it's killer. So chrome risers, chrome bar for this particular bike. So these are the 9.5-inch pullback risers, and I've got their low bend bar, which is 2 inches. So that's going to give us 11.5, we'll call it 12 inches of total height, which is a really, really nice place, particularly with the pullback on a dyno like this. So I'm going to get these on, going to look something like that. And I'll get these put in place, put the bar on, use that to get these straight, and then I'll torque down the riser bolts. Okay, so with the bars in place and the controls kind of back where they belong, this is the point where we can start to really finalize what the lengths are going to be. So I'll just kind of start. I actually was able to hook the throttle and idle cables up. I think these are actually fine. I don't know if I want to go longer. Obviously, if we can reuse the stock ones, there's no reason not to. I don't know. It's a little surprising to me that there's as much slack in these as there are, but maybe that other riser, the way it was connected on there, caused them to have to be longer. I don't know, but they could obviously be a little longer. We could put a bigger bend in here, but there's really no reason to if we don't have to. So I'm gonna leave this for right now. We'll get the bike on the ground. We'll see how it works. If I gotta put longer ones on, I will. The brake is pretty close, but not quite there, as to be expected. So that line will be there. So you can see probably only about 2 inches longer than this one and be able to get that back on. Really don't have to go crazy with that. And then on the clutch side of things, I've got this rerouted, you know, look, so here, I'll pull this back out. Your stock routing would go this way. And again, the clutch would only really need to be extended by probably a little short of 2 inches. It probably would need to be a little bit longer than that, maybe 3. But since we have to replace the cable anyway, I think it would be cleaner if we were to route the clutch cable up through the center here. And I've done this on some other bikes, so that would get on there. And then your clutch cable will come around this way. So it allows the cable to kind of follow the bar and the riser and just makes it a pretty clean install. So we've got about, probably about 6 inches or so here to make this work right. So I don't know what I've got on the shelf. I always keep a bunch of Magnum clutches and brakes and stuff like that around. The throttle and idle cables I don't have. So I'm going to look at, see what I have for brake and clutch. But before I do that, I'm actually going to raise the bike up and get this cable removed so I can get an exact length on it. I do have the stock measurement, but I just want to make sure we're all measuring from the same place so I can see what I've got and just make sure I've got something that'll work. Otherwise, I'll order the clutch along with the brake lines that I need Because this is a dual disc non-ABS bike, we're gonna wind up doing 2 lower brake lines going into a T under the triple tree and then up to 1 single line coming up to the master. So I'm gonna get all that stuff ordered. Whether I need to order a clutch or not, I don't know. But in any event, I'll get the stuff ordered and we'll come back, in the video in, a day or so. Obviously for you guys, it's gonna be in about 10 seconds, but I'll get that ordered and then we'll come back to this. So we'll just shoot this over 2 days or whatever it's gonna be, no big deal. All right, I've got a clutch cable I had on the shelf, which I'm pretty sure is gonna be a good length for the new routing that I came up with. So let's get it put on and see what it does. All right, so I wasn't able to get this started in here. Sometimes it can be a little bit difficult just because the angle that it's at. It's a little bit hard to sometimes get the thread started, but normally I find that way really easy if you leave the cable in place first, then spin the thing. But I couldn't get it. I wound up taking it off and the threads were a little bit dirty, so I ran a tap through the holes and managed to get it with it disconnected. So I'm just gonna feed it through from this side and hopefully we are good to go. All right, so what I want to do is just kind of put this in place, kind of mocked up, just to make sure that the cable is going to be a good length. And once I confirm that, then we'll get a new gasket in here, button this up, and get the clutch cable connected, obviously, and we'll be good to go. Okay, so clutch cable is on and routed, and I gotta tell you, I like this way. Like I said, I've done it before. It's kind of nice having the cable follow the bars and the riser this way. Got to do our final clutch cable adjustment, fluid in the transmission. I already adjusted the clutch down in the under the derby cover, so we're almost there. At least with that part of it, anyway. I think we're gonna call that good. Routing is good, length is good, and I had the cable, so it's still money, obviously. It's a part on the shelf, but didn't have to actually lay out any more cash, so that's always a good thing. Next up, well, not next up, but next up would be getting the brake lines done. But like I said, I don't have them, so we have to wait for them. I did put that order in, so hopefully those will ship out tomorrow. What else can we do while we're up here? I'm not sure. I guess we could put the headlight back on. But in the meantime, actually, I might just move on and get the pipe put on because I was waiting on that, obviously, until we were done with that clutch side cover. But now that we are, we could do that. So maybe the pipe will be the next thing we do. I don't know. All right, so let's go ahead and get this new pipe installed. So first thing I'm going to do is put the bracket on. So the 3 bolts we took out and replaced from the old bracket are the same ones the new bracket's going to use. This pipe comes with 3 longer screws, just like the other bracket did. So the OE screws that I had that I replaced, I'm going to take those out and we'll use these new ones. It'd be nice if they recessed this bracket here a little bit here and here so you could get to those 2 bolts a little bit easier. I don't like using a long Allen like this if I don't have to, but the other one doesn't really fit super well, so that's where we're at. Okay, bracket secured. I've already taken the old exhaust gaskets out. Got 2 new ones here, get those popped in. So I've got the pipe prepped, the O2 sensors and flanges put on, so I'll grab that, bring it over, and get it put in place. All right, so pipe is on and still loose. I am going to grab the muffler section. We'll get that put on, attached to the bracket. We'll get everything tightened down, get a little heat shield to put on here, wipe the pipe down, we'll be good to go. All right, so if you hadn't guessed yet, the pipe we're putting on is Bassani Road Rage 3. In the world of stainless 2-into-1 pipes, it's kind of, I guess, one of the kind of original big popular ones. Certainly now in the last couple of years, you know, there's a million ones you can choose from, ranging from the really good to the really bad. And I would say the Bassani sits pretty much right in the middle. It's not a particularly high performance minded pipe in terms of having a whole lot of R&D going into that, but the quality is decent. Good enough, certainly within the line of what we're doing. The price point is definitely a lot less than some of these newcomers to the market, trying to, I think, make their pipes seem better than they are by pricing them higher. But there actually are some things I do appreciate about the Bassani pipe that a lot of the other ones you don't have. So one thing is, well, first thing is what you just saw. The head pipe fits really well. They go on, you don't have a lot of clearance issues to deal with. You know, obviously we'll get this put in the right place, but you're not forcing these, you know, flanges to go into the heads. It fits nicely. The muffler fits onto the collector well. Again, it's not like a huge bad tolerance or way too tight. You'll see that. I also appreciate how they have nuts welded into here rather than having to stick like a thing back there, you know, a big plate or like a dog bone nut kind of thing. A lot of the other manufacturers, you got to be messing around back here. This is really easy. You just line this up with the bracket and stick the hardware in. On the negative side, I suppose, the pipe does not come with really anything. So you saw me put new gaskets in. Those do not come with the pipe. I use new retaining clips for the exhaust flanges. Those don't come with it either. We also did, I'm trying to think, there was one other thing. Oh, replaced all of the nuts for the flanges on the heads. Obviously, those don't come with the pipe. Nobody includes those, but that was another little expense. So just kind of keep all that stuff in mind when you're thinking about cost, that you might have to buy some other little stuff along the way. Not that it's a big cost, but it is what it is. So in any event, I think for the price point, for the look and the sound on a stock motor, I think it's a great choice, and that's why I went with it. So let's go ahead and get this put on. One other thing. Put a little bit of anti-seize between the muffler and the collector on any of these pipes, and you'll have a much easier time getting it apart if you need to down the road. All right, so we've got all our hardware started. Band is still on, just snug but not tight. Just go ahead and start tightening everything down. Heads first, then we'll get the clamp, and then finally we'll tighten. All right, that easy. Pipe's on. We've got no clearance issues anywhere. Everything's nice and tight. Everything looks nice and straight. So we're good to go. I've got to plug the O2 sensors in, got to wipe the pipe down, and we'll put the little heat shield on, and we'll be ready to keep rolling. All right, so with the pipe done, come back up to the bars and we can make a little more progress up here. I held off on getting this situated on this side because I've got this plug here that I was waiting for the epoxy I used to dry. Now, what this is a plug to use on bars that are set up for throttle by wire if you're using them on a bike that has a cable throttle. So it's got some notches in here, which wouldn't necessarily be a problem. The throttle doesn't mind those, the cable throttle. However, the bars will be an unequal length if you don't put this plug in. So you kind of have two choices. If you're looking for narrower bars, that's not a big deal. You can cut off the other side or cut from both sides and narrow the bars in, which is a totally valid option. The other thing is, if you're not trying to make the bars any narrower, you can put one of these plugs in and you can get them kind of anywhere. We have them on our website. As a matter of fact, I will leave a link to this part below, and I'll also leave a link to all the parts that we used to do all these upgrades in case you want to go check those out. I'll leave all that in the description below. I've never seen anybody talk about epoxying this thing into the bars, you could certainly just slide it in there and put the grip on, and it'll work perfectly fine, I think. I like to put the epoxy on because it's just one less thing to be rattling around. So put a little epoxy on there, stick it in, and this guy ain't coming out now. So with that on there and dried, we can go ahead and get the throttle grip put on, get the cables connected, and we're one step closer. All right, so before I get too carried away and get all this stuff finally buttoned up, I'm gonna roll the bike down onto the ground and make sure that these throttle and idle cables are long enough. So make sure we can go lock to lock without any binding or anything like that. We'll be checking the clutch cable at the same time too, although I'm sure there's not gonna be an issue there. So let me do that and then we'll keep rolling. All right, while I wait for the brake lines to come in, I figured now's as good a time as any to knock out some of the little extras that I've got planned. So obviously you can see I've got the new seat put on, so I think this is just a really nice little upgrade for this bike. This is a seat I actually designed for a bike for myself that I didn't wind up buying that bike and doing that project, so I just kind of had the seat here. So obviously it's a Saddleman step up. It's a tuck and roll, which is a little different than a lot of them. And we also did the gripper material with the tuck and roll on the lumbar area. And then you got the gripper material with lattice stitch around the sides. And it's got our logo in black stitching up on the top. So like super cool, super clean seat, obviously really comfortable. I'll give you a better shot of that so you can see all of it when we get the bike down. But I figured while we're back here, let's knock out taillight and license plate brackets. So obviously this bike had the typical Harley adjustable stand-up license plate bracket on it. So I've got a gloss black radius laydown plate frame to go on here. Boom. So these are inexpensive, just a nice way to clean up the bike. So one thing I always say about these is the hardware that comes with them, I've never found one where the hardware's any good. Comes with usually metric, I think they're like 8mm bolts, and they're bad. They usually lock up in the lock nuts and break. So I don't even try them. I just throw them out and replace it with '20 stainless fasteners with lock nuts. Stainless is a good idea back here because obviously you're getting a lot of like road debris and water up under here. So you don't want these things rusting. It's obviously not a critical fastener, but if you can avoid rust, it's probably a good idea. So grab the little gasket deal here. And we'll get this guy put on. All right. It's good and tight. It is. All right. One little upgrade down. Let's go to the next one. So obviously I took off the taillight. I mentioned in the last video I had a little idea for this, and that is this guy right here. So I'm just repurposing a Softail Lowrider ST taillight that we took off another bike. I've actually done this a bunch of times and nobody ever wants these, so I got a pile of them, and I figured, while it's not necessarily what you'd pick if you were putting a taillight on, certainly better than what was here, and it's free. So all I had to do, obviously the wiring harness is different, so I just cut the pigtail off of the OE light and soldered it onto the pigtail for this light. And now we've got a harness that goes from the Softail style to the traditional Dyna every other thing style. So this will just plug right in, it'll work. It's not super low profile, but it's, smoked and it's LED. So, hey, let's run it. I can't imagine, I don't know, if this is like, again, if this is me and this is my bike, I'm gonna take this off, I'm gonna take these off, slim this down, but just to do something a little different, a little bit of an upgrade, like I said, for $0, no big deal. So let's get this guy plugged in. All right, take a step back. It's all right. Like I said, it's not necessarily what I would pick, but I had it and it was free, so we're gonna run it. Even if, if I had a set of maybe the smoked lenses and red bulbs, that I think would work pretty well back here too. But I don't have any. I could run to AutoZone, I suppose, to find some bulbs, but we're gonna leave it. I just wanna make sure this tail light works. All right, so we got tail light and no brake light. That's weird. Let's try this one. Actually, oh no, that's the problem. There we go. That's the deal. Okay, so it wasn't that the brake light didn't work, it was that the brakes were on because I don't have the lever put on. So we got low light for the tail light and then brake light. Okay. So the issue there wasn't, I'm not sure if you could see my hand on the screen, but because the master cylinder is off the bike, the brake light switch for the front brakes is not being depressed, so the brake lights are just on. So I have to go up there, press that button, it'll turn them off. So that is good to go. All right, so that's 1, 2, 3. Let's move up to the front of the bike. All right, so here is the original headlight put into the new headlight bucket. Like I mentioned, we need to do a bottom mount headlight to work with the kind of traditional style risers. So this bucket came with the black trim ring, which was cool. It came with a wiring pigtail, which was not correct. So we just reused the original one, put that through, repinned it. This will plug right back in. Does not come with a headlight block, but if you recognize this headlight block, then you know what's coming next after we get the brake lights done, but I'm not gonna spoil the surprise if you don't know. So you have to put a headlight block in here. So we've got one, so added that in. You have to supply your own hardware. Like I said, this was inexpensive, so not surprising it didn't really come with a whole lot of stuff. So that's gonna mount up right there. Grab some hardware. All right. All right, that looks pretty good. Let me grab a couple of wrenches, get that tightened down. All right, good to go with the headlights. So at this point, I can get all the wiring tucked in after we get that headlight just reconnected, and we're good to go. So the next thing I'm gonna do after this is gonna be the brake lines, which, like I said, are gonna be coming in tomorrow. So for me, I'm gonna have to wait to get that done. But for you guys, that's gonna be happening right about now. All right, well, it's Monday afternoon, and the parts I was waiting for finally arrived. So that's gonna be 2 lower brake lines, a T-block, and an upper brake line. So that's all here and ready to go on. One thing you might notice looking at the bike here is that things are a little different up here than they were where we last left the bike. I got a little impatient while I was waiting for the brake lines to come in, so started messing around with some of the parts up here. You should probably be able to recognize what we're doing here if you haven't figured it out already, but I've got a bracket added on here, a lower bracket added on here, and the headlight block, I actually had it on upside down. I had it mounted above the tree rather than below, and this is the correct orientation, so I just got that fixed. So we'll get to that once we get done with the brake lines, but it's time to do these brake lines. So first thing I'm gonna do is get the banjos undone from the calipers. We'll get the bolt undone under here, and then I will undo the fitting on the master cylinder, and then we'll start building our new lines and getting this stuff bolted back together. So we're in the home stretch, let's make it happen. All right, so it's our old brake lines, master cylinder. So if it wasn't clear from what I kind of said before, this is all one piece. It's all, clamped on here. So in order to replace the upper, the whole thing has got to get replaced. That's kind of a bummer, but it is what it is. So I'm gonna get this taken off here, this banjo. I already kind of cracked it loose when it was on the bars because it's easier to do that way. So I just got to undo it and put the new upper brake line on here, and then get the T mounted up, and we'll get all the brake lines connected. All right, with the brake lines on and tightened down, gonna go ahead and add some fluid, bleed these out real quick, and we should be pretty much done with the brakes at that point. All right, well, that's that. They definitely do not all bleed that easily, but it's a nice change of pace when you get one that just goes real smoothly with not having to go back and forth a whole bunch of times. So did it with the power bleeder on both sides, and then went back and just do a manual bleed to confirm that you got no air bubbles coming out. Lever feels really good. So we're good to go. Gonna do a little wipe off here, get the cap back on, and we'll keep moving on. All right, with the brake lines done, I've got one more piece to go on here, which should be the cherry on top of our little project here, and that is a Repop T-Sport fairing. So this is, full disclosure, this is an Amazon cheapie. This is a 100% Repop, knockoff, whatever you want to call it. As far as I'm concerned, I've got kind of a thing about knockoff Amazon parts. I think it's pretty shitty if you're buying something on Amazon that's a knockoff of a currently produced product by some small outfit. So I don't know, take for example, the guys knocking off San Diego Customs foot pegs and selling them on Amazon. That's crap. You should be buying the real thing from the guys who designed it. In the case of a T-Sport fairing, well, Harley-Davidson originally designed these. They don't make them anymore, and to find one that's original costs a huge fortune. So anyone who's selling a T-Sport fairing at this point, be it the expensive ones like JD Customs or Connolly or anybody like that, it's a Repop, and you could pay $600 for one. You can get a mid-priced one, which is the ones we typically use from OG Moto, or you can go to Amazon and get one for $100. Everybody's copying the same original design, so it's my personal opinion, take it or leave it, that you're not infringing on anybody's intellectual property in this particular case. So we got a cheap one. So I'm not sure how this is gonna fit. What do you want for $100 on Amazon? But I guess we'll find out. So I'm gonna get this kind of held in place here with the hardware, and we'll see how it looks. All right, well, I think that's a wrap on this update on our 2014 lowrider. So got the fairing on, and I gotta say, I know I was a little bit questioning how well it was gonna fit and what it was gonna be like. For the $100 that this thing cost, I think it might be the best money we spent on the whole bike. I think I'm probably kidding about that, but seriously, it really did fit super well. Getting it lined up was easy. I had no issues with any of the hardware or brackets or anything being bent or misaligned. This went on maybe easier than the last more expensive one of these that I did. So take that for what it's worth. I will, I don't have any affiliate nonsense with Amazon or anything like that, but I will leave a link for those of you who are interested in the description below where you can get this $100 fairing if you want to try it on your bike. So the rest of this stuff, I think, has a better pedigree, let's say, in terms of, brand and quality. But I figured for something like this that the next owner could very easily just unbolt and take off if they don't like it, it was worth rolling the dice, and I think it paid off. So yeah, that is pretty much the install of everything. So, a quick review. Obviously, we got the fairing. We did our thrashing bars and risers. It's got a total of just about 12 inches of height, which is, I think, a really nice kind of average for a Dyna. We've got our extended brake lines from Magnum on, original throttle cables reached, new extended clutch cable, got our internal wiring done, new grips from ODI, the Heartluck grips, and I think I mentioned it before, but I'll say it again, all the parts that we sell that I used on this, I'll give you a link in the description below so you can check that stuff out. But I think this looks really good here, and then obviously kind of working our way back. Got the Bassani Road Rage 3 on here, which, quintessential classic stainless 2-into-1 pipe. Really nothing too good or bad to say about it. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. Got our Legend revo-a shocks on here. The custom step-up seat with the blackout iron anchor package, if you will, on it. And then quick little upgrade of our our license plate bracket and the tail light off a Lowrider ST. So that's pretty much it. And I'll tell you, as much as I really like all the upgrades we did, sort of the individual things, when I take a step back and look at it, this really just screams quintessential modern setup Dyna to me. This is everything you need and nothing you don't. And certainly, if you happen to be the next owner of this bike, any one of the things that we did can be upgraded or changed or whatever. And all these parts have value, right? So if you say, hey, I want 14-inch shocks, which is probably what I'd pick if it's me instead of 13s, pull these off and sell them. You'll get a good, pretty penny for a like-new set of takeoffs, whether it's a Bassani pipe, Legend shocks, the bars if you want a different height, any of this stuff. We used pretty common, readily available parts, so people will want them if you want to change them. So that's pretty much the bike. I will do a little walk around with the camera so you can see the seat and kind of the lines of how everything looks, but I will tell you now about what we're going to do in terms of the giveaway for this bike. And I should have mentioned at the beginning of the video I was going to talk about it at the end, but if you're still here at the end, maybe it means you're interested in the bike. So I'm going to do what we did the last time, which is we're going to do a giveaway, and the drawing and the updates and all that stuff are going to be on Instagram. Now, I know a number of you who watch on YouTube have said you really would like to be able to do it, but you don't have an Instagram account. Here's what I'm going to tell you. It's not that you can't buy into the raffle if you don't have Instagram. It's that you will not be able to see the live drawing if you don't have Instagram. So I don't want to put people in a position where I'm selling a whole bunch of spots in a giveaway for this bike, and then I have people going, hey, you never did the drawing, or it wasn't live, I never got to see it, and feel like there was something underhanded going on. I'd rather avoid that and not have people feel like we did something where you didn't actually get to see the drawing and see it take place. That said, I imagine there's probably a number of you that don't care if you won't be able to see it live. You just want to be able to get in on it. So that said, I will include the information on YouTube. This video is going to go up. I'm not exactly sure what my schedule of posts is, but this video you're watching now will be live for about a week before we put the giveaway up on Instagram. So I'm not going to put any of the information in the description for this video. I'm just going to we'll post like a short or something like that, and I'll give you the info once the drawing goes up. And if you don't see it and you want to get in on it, just send an email, info@ironanchorcycles.com. Be happy to share the information with you once it's available. I would love for everybody who wants to be able to get a shot at winning this killer bike, the opportunity to do it. So I think that's going to be it. Really nothing more to say on this bike. I've got to take it down, got to do a couple little things. I mean, just checking stuff. Got to do a final adjustment on the clutch cable just to make sure we got full range of motion from where we installed the brake line here. I think everything's good. We got to just double check it, take it for a ride. And then I'll show you the bike, and hey, you'll get a chance to see what it sounds like too, because I don't even think we ran it yet in any of the videos. So do a little bit of B-roll after I'm done talking here, and you'll be able to check the bike out. So that's going to do it. And hopefully we'll see all of you guys when we start the giveaway, and see you on the next video. Thanks for watching. All right, so as promised, I want to go through the numbers on what we did on this bike. Now, I'm going to go through each of the things that I did and talk a little bit about the price. There is going to be sort of an asterisk on all of this, which is we're going to be talking basically about retail pricing on all the stuff that we did. And obviously, we are a dealer for motorcycle parts, and we get dealer pricing of a varying degree of percentage and margin on most of the things that we show in videos. Not everything, and the margins vary quite a bit. I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to talk about dealer pricing. Number one, it is confidential in most cases. That type of information is not meant to be shared with the general public. When you sign your dealer agreements, you agree to that. And I'm just not going to get into it because, frankly, those margins are, how we make money on the things that we do here. So I'm going to talk about regular retail price and kind of how it translates into the value on the bike. So with that being said, the bike itself, initially I had valued at roughly $10,000. Now, I went through some of the comments where people were kind of making jokes about it, and I laughed a little bit about, people don't necessarily agree with that price. Whether you do or you don't, that's the price I assigned to the bike, right? So I think I mentioned either in this video or the last one, I do think $10,000 is a lot for a pretty stock Dyna, but that really is where the market is today. That if you want a clean bike that is pretty original, low miles, good shape, that's kind of where you're at. You're going to pay around 10 grand for whether it's a real late model like this one, 14, 15, 16, 17 in that range. You're going to pay roughly the same for one of the early desirable bikes too, a DX or something like that. A DXT, even more. So let's just agree to disagree or agree to agree that we're going to call $10,000 where I had valued the bike where it was. So let's talk about the upgrades that I did. So I've got my cheat sheet here. I'm going to try and throw some numbers up on the screen just so we can all sort of keep track together. First thing, and this is just kind of the order that I wrote it all down. We've got the bars and riser from Thrash and Supply, and that is valued at $700 bucks. So you add the low bend bar and the 9.5-inch kickback riser together, $700 for that. For lines and cables, now this one is a little bit complicated because I didn't exactly have to buy everything. That clutch cable I had on the shelf, but still, I bought it at some point. And also came in a little less than I expected because we didn't have to do the throttle and idle cable and didn't have to do any wiring extensions. So if we're talking about just the clutch cable and then 3 brake lines and the T, we're talking about $300 bucks for all of that. Probably a little bit more, to be honest, but I'm going to call it $300. Next thing, the headlight bucket. Got that on Amazon, 25 bucks. I'm not sure if I rounded that or whatever, but those are pretty inexpensive. Grips, we've got the Heartluck ODI grips at $70. Next, we've got the Amazon Repop fairing, $100. We've got the Saddleman step-up seat, $450. The Legend revo-a shocks, $1,000 for those. The Bassani Road Rage 3 pipe, $10.50. And let's see what else we've got here. The layback plate mount, that's another Amazon purchase, so 50 bucks for that. And then the last thing on here on this list, it's going to be a $0 mount, but that's going to be the FX LRS, the Lowrider S, Lowrider ST tail light. So when you add all of those parts up, that is going to come to a grand total of $37.95, so just under $4,000. So originally I had said our budget was going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 grand. I went a little bit over just because there were certain things I wanted to do and, didn't want to make compromises. So could have kept that to $3 grand if we left the seat off. And if I'd gone with the Legend Revos instead of revo-a's, that probably would have made that difference, or pretty close anyway. But where we wound up, like I said, was $37.95. Now, like I said before, did I pay $37.95 for all that stuff? I did not. Some of it I had here already. Did have to buy it originally, so it's not like it was free, but it was here. And some of it, all of it, some of it I got dealer pricing on. So there is a margin of profitability for that, but we're a shop. That's what we do. We buy things at dealer cost and sell them at retail. So when I take that money that we spent and just put it directly dollar for dollar into the price of the bike, it's a value for the person receiving the bike, and it's a value for me, if that makes sense, right? So how we're gonna do the giveaway, I'm thinking, I'm not 100% locked in on this, but I think what I'm gonna do is 90 tickets times 150. And so that's gonna come out to $13,500. So I have put $37.95, almost $3,800 worth of upgrade into the bike. And we're asking for just less than that, $3,500 more in terms of the value of the bike. Now, I can hear the comments going already, that's not how this works. Well, in the private party world, that's not how this works. But from a dealer perspective, from a professional perspective, it is how it works. We're not getting paid for labor for any of this. So that's where the value for the ultimate end user customer is that if you were gonna do this all yourself, fine. I mean, you can find deals on this stuff. You could buy parts used. You can do it cheaper. There's no question about that. But let's just assume, you don't want to work on the bike yourself and you're going to pay a shop like us to do the work. To get all this stuff done is going to cost you a heck of a lot more than $3,800 because you're going to have to pay for labor. So you're not paying for labor because it's built into the price of the bike. and we're valuing the bike basically exactly a little bit less than what I said the bike was worth before we did any of the work, plus the sum of the parts. So I think that total estimated value at 13.5 is really fair considering what we just did. I assume that a lot of you will agree, and I assume there's going to be a small majority of you or a small group of you out there who are going to think I'm totally full of shit. And I expect to hear from you in the comments. So I guess bring it on. I mean, you can share your feelings, positive or negative. You know, either way, that's fine. I just thought this was an interesting experiment to do to kind of let the YouTube world help to decide what was going to go on the bike, and then kind of show you how the math works out in terms of the value of the bike and ultimately what the final product comes to. So I hope you guys enjoyed kind of coming along on this ride with me, and I'm looking forward to doing it again. So if you guys are into it, let me know. We'll do more of these. You know, if not, we'll find something else to do. I've got a bunch of other cool stuff planned. Just want to keep making videos and keep engaging with you guys because I really enjoy it. Helps to keep me entertained and engaged and interested in what I'm doing here. In addition to the customer work we do, doing some of this other kind of side project stuff is actually really fun. So I really do enjoy it, and I really appreciate all of you guys for liking the videos, subscribing to the channel, you know, commenting, any of that stuff. It's a big help, and it really does matter a lot. So thank you. That, I guess, is going to be the end for this. And like I mentioned before, stick around. You know, if you want the info on the raffle and you're not on Instagram, shoot me an email. I'll get you the info, or just wait for like a short post or something like that. I'm going to try to get it out on YouTube as well. So that's it. And thank you.